Welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read Parshas Tazria, and the bulk of the Parsha is occupied with the fascinating and riveting topic of Saras. We often loosely translate Saras as leprosy, but leprosy is an actual physical malady. Saras was more a physical manifestation of a spiritual ailment. A person who was in a state of spiritual disrepair. A person had committed certain averos, and the Gemara discusses extensively which averos cause Saras. So a person is in a state of spiritual illness, spiritual disrepair. Saras was the physical manifestation of spiritual illness. Of course, again, we know most notably the Gemara associates Saras with speaking lashon hara, speaking ill, negatively or slanderous about another individual. What's unique about the Saras process is that a Saras determination could only be made by the Cohen. So, for example, even if someone has a great Talmud Chacham, they know all the halachos of Saras, and let's say a person gets the lesion, they say, oh, I see, this is Saras, or it's not Saras. An individual cannot make his own Saras determination. He has to go to the Cohen, and it's only the Cohen who could declare him Tameh or Tahar, impure, pure. Sometimes if the Cohen is not sure about the status of the nega, the status of the discoloration, they could sequester the person for a week and kind of see what develops. But everything happens through the Cohen. And in fact, the Torah speaks about this in Parak Yud Gimel Pasuk Yud Beis, chapter 13, verse 12. Now, the truth is, the details over here, which we're not going to delve into, happen to be a fascinating case of where a person is covered in saras from head to toe. So like I said, we'll save that for a different discussion. But the Torah speaks about the idea that this individual comes to the Cohen will see him, l'chol mare einei haKohen. So literally the person presents himself, literally translated, so that the Cohen could see him in his entirety. Now, his entirety is not speaking about the patient, so to speak, the person afflicted. It means the Cohen. The Cohen has to be able to see the person in his totality. L'chol mare einei haKohen, for the total sight of the Cohen. And what's interesting is as follows. The Mishnah in Meseches Negoim, Parak Beis in Mishnah is Beis in Gimel quotes an amazing halachas. The Mishnah says, "In Rom hanagam b'shachris v'in arbaim." So it's interesting. The Mishnah says you can't go ahead and see. A Kohen can't examine discolorations early in the morning or in the evening, nor inside the house. Why? Because it's interesting. Morning, the light reflects one way. Evening, the light reflects a different way. Inside the house, you may not have natural light. And the Kohen has to be able to see the nega, has to be able to see the discoloration in almost like perfect circumstances, to the point that the Mishnah actually says, so when could a Kohen examine these discolorations? B'shalosh, ba'arba, b'chamesh, u'b'sheva, u'b'shmona. It's fascinating. You could look at, a Kohen could examine 3 hours into the day, 4 hours into the day, 5 hours into the day, 7 or 8 hours into the day. There are specific times that a Kohen could go ahead and examine blemishes. And amongst the times that a Kohen is not permitted to examine blemishes, the Mishnah writes, V'lo biyom hama'unan. You can't go ahead and examine, Kohen can't examine a blemish on a cloudy day. And the truth is, the logic is we understand it, because on a cloudy day, you can't see the sun. Without the sun, the light is impacted. If the light is impacted, you may or may not be seeing the actual colors of the discoloration. And that, of course, can make a world of difference. So, v'lo b'yom hama'unan. The Kohen is not permitted to go ahead and examine a nega, examine a discoloration on a cloudy day. And amazingly enough, the Mishnah goes on with a whole bunch of different situations where a Kohen is not permitted to go ahead and examine a discoloration. And then it says at the end, why is this? All this is based on the pasuk. Shene Amar, l'chol mare einei haKohen. The Kohen has to be able to see things in totality. It's incredible. The pasuk we just quoted from our parsha, Parak Yud Gimel Pasuk Yud Beis, chapter 13, verse 12. Why can't the Kohen go ahead and look at a discoloration, look at a nega, look at a blemish on a cloudy day? Why not? Why not? L'chol mare einei haKohen. The Kohen has to be able to see things in totality. And again, there are so many other examples of this. If a Kohen is blind in one eye, he's not allowed to paskin on negoim. L'chol mare einei haKohen means the Kohen has to be able to see things in totality. So it's cloudy, he can't look at negoim. And I saw a beautiful and incredible and dramatically relevant idea brought down in the Sefer Galilei Zav, quoted from the Sefer Galilei Zav. Galilei Zav was written by Rav David Maskowitz. Rav David Maskowitz was a Rav in Transylvania, Romania, before the war. He was a Hasidic Rav. He wasn't a Rebbe in his own, but he was a Hasidic Rav and an outstanding Talmud Chacham. And I saw quoted from a Sefer Galilei Zav the following concept. He says that, so Rav Moskowitz says, the Glila Zav says, what does it mean biyom ha'mu'unan? A Cohen can't go ahead and look at the negoim, look at discolorations, look at Saras on a cloudy day. And he writes, Kisha'anonim me'ivin shmei Yisrael. So the Galilei Zav sees a beautiful and profound metaphorical meaning in all of this. He says, when there are clouds in the sky, is a reference to difficult times for Klal Yisrael. When it is a difficult matzav, when the sky is cloudy, cloudiness always looks a little bit ominous, right? You go outside, just even on a perfectly wonderful day, you see the sky getting dark, you see the clouds forming. There's a feeling of ominouskeit. It's not a word, but it sounds good. Ominouskeit that goes ahead and develops inside the individual. It's sunny, everything's beautiful, everything's fantastic, but b'yom ha'mu'un, on a cloudy day, represents times of difficulty. Clouds represent an ominous sight. Kisha'anonim even shmei Yisrael, ugzeros v'tsaros tekufos uba'as aleihem. When it is cloudy for Klal Yisrael, and life is difficult, and there is suffering, and there is sadness, and there are gzeros, and there are decrees, and there are broken hearts, and there are tears flowing like water. When it's a cloudy day for Klal Yisrael, ein liros negoim. The Galilei Zav says, you do not look at blemishes. Chalila b'bnei Yisrael. Incredible idea. When it's cloudy outside, he's quoting the Mishnah, when it's cloudy, we don't look at negoim. When there's a time of adversity, a time of difficulty, a time of challenge for Klal Yisrael, that is not a time to look at imperfections in your fellow Jew. When it's cloudy outside, when things are difficult, we don't see negoim, but rather we go out of our way to look for the positive. We go out of our way to look for the good. We go out of our way to see the beauty, and we avoid at all expenses seeing the negoim, seeing what is broken, seeing what is in a state of disrepair, seeing what is blemished in my fellow Jew. What an incredible and overwhelming idea. Chavra, we often speak about that one of the most powerful things that we have experienced since October 7th has been Achdus. But the truth is, human nature is, at least Jewish nature often is, that in times of crisis, we circle the wagons, we put our arms around one another, and we're together, we're biyachad. But then as time goes on, sometimes it's easy for that to fray. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed us with the ability to pivot, with the ability to accommodate to new circumstances in life. And sometimes once we begin to accommodate, and once we begin to pivot, and once we begin to get used to new realities, sometimes we fall back into our old ways. And we begin to be critical of one another, and we begin to dissect one another, and we begin to see the blemishes in one another. And the Galilei Zav teaches us that as long as there are clouds in the sky, as long as there are difficulties for Klal Yisrael, as long as there is war, and as long as there are hostages, and as long as there is anti-Semitism, and as long as there are soldiers in harm's way, if there are clouds in the sky, you don't look at negoim. You don't look at the negative things in your fellow Jew. But they're there. They're staring at me in the face, right? I can't avoid it. I can't look away. It's obvious. I'm not trying to be bad. But it's right there. It's right there. Chavra, that's our avoda. A lot of times because we're so far away, I'm talking to us now in the diaspora, because we're so far away, often we feel so incredibly helpless. But the truth is, there is no such thing as a Yid who is helpless. There is no such thing. At the end of the day, all of us have the ability to affect change in so many dramatic ways. And there are some Jews who affect change with rifles and tanks, and there are other Jews who affect change with the Chumash and the Gemara, and there are other Jews who affect change with their tfilos, and there are other Jews who affect change with their eyes. The power of looking favorably upon one another. I know we speak about it ad nauseum, but the power of really resisting the temptation to see something negative and going out of my way to see something positive in every Jew. Do you know the power that would bring to our nation? The light that would bring to our world? We're living in a time where the world, or I shouldn't say the world because that's a generalization, but so many look upon us with an evil eye. that so many look upon us with a negative eye, that so many see us as the aggressor, as the tyrannical force, as the oppressor. And again, we all wear that mantle in the eyes of the world. It doesn't matter, you're here, you're there. The world looks upon us now, so many in the world look upon us now with such negativity. And when the world looks upon us with negativity, it behooves us to look upon one another with unbridled positivity. It behooves us to look upon one another with an ayin tova, with a good eye, to avoid seeing the negative. Chevra, if you look hard enough at any person, you could always find something negative. You could always find something negative. But the avodah of a Yid, the avodah of a Jew, is when we look at each other to find something positive, to find something good, to recognize that if there are clouds in the sky, we don't look at Negaim. The truth is, even when there aren't clouds in the sky, we shouldn't look at Negaim. But the truth is, we're human beings. We're going to find fault in each other. But at least, to commit ourselves that when there are clouds in the sky, when there are the clouds of war, the clouds of difficulty, the clouds of heartbreak, don't look for the negativity in each other. And even if we see something, move away from it. Quickly, go to find something positive. Rabbi Nachman says, in the Kuti Maran, the Rebbe brings down that if you find yourself seeing something negative about someone, he says, in that moment, push yourself, in that moment, to find something positive. And even if the positive thing is something so small, whatever it is, they're a nice dresser. I don't know, they give tzedakah, they're this. Even if you can't find something positive to offset the negative that you're seeing, but find something positive. That's an avoda that we can do. Do you know why we were redeemed from Mitzrayim? Do you know why in this incredible, glorious month of Nisan, we were redeemed thousands of years ago? Do you know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked for the good inside of us. When you looked at our ancestors coming out of Egypt, let's be honest, they weren't that much to look at. We carried idolatry with us through the split Red Sea. How crazy is that? We complained to Moshe Rabbeinu at the banks of the Red Sea. We built the golden calf. That's who we are. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeem a nation like this? Because he didn't look just at us at first glance. He didn't see the negaim. He didn't see the negativity. He looked inside and he saw the beauty as well. And that's how he got out of Mitzrayim. Only because HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose not to look at the blemishes. And however, the only way we are going to extricate ourselves from this current war, from this current difficulty. Yes, we have to put in all of the hishtadlus. You have to put in all of the physical and material and human effort. Absolutely. But bolster that with a healthy dose of dynamic spiritual activity as well. And if we just begin to condition ourselves to not see the imperfections, to not see the negativity, and whether you apply this in your marriage, with your children, with your friends, in your workplace, wherever you want to plug it in your shul, wherever you want to plug it in, plug it in. The clouds of war are gathered around our people. And as the Glilei Zohar says, you don't look at negaim when there's a cloudy day. L'chol mare einei Cohen. B'yom ha'mu'unan, on a cloudy day, in times of difficulty, we do not look at blemishes. Halavai, we should be zochem Eretz Hashem, to summon up the strength within ourselves, to only see the good in each other, to actively look for the good in one another, and in that zechus, may we be zochem Eretz Hashem, to dispel the clouds of war, to drive away the clouds of sadness. Benisa nigalu ubenisa nasid nigal. We were redeemed once upon a time in this holy and sacred month. And may we be zochem Eretz Hashem, to experience salvation in this month of Nisan again. By Yamim Ahim, Bazman Hazeh. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.